In my dream PC setup video, I revealed how I located my gaming PC and streaming PC into the rack next to my office. This has been working well, however the gaming PC case is a bit crammed for space, so I've decided to migrate the components into a rack case which will promote better airflow. First step was to take the computer outside and give it a good dusting. It's been quite a while since this has been done. For those interested, this is a Silverstone Farah R1 case. After this initial blasting, I take the Inno3D GeForce RTX 3090 iChill X4 GPU out and give it a detailed cleaning. There's a fair amount of build-up, so it's worth going to town on it with a brush. Next up is the CPU cooler and its fans. This is a Noctua NH-U12A with two 120mm fans. I used to have an all-in-one in this PC, but it failed and I decided to switch over to the Noctua. When running a Cinebench 2024 benchmark, CPU temps max out to 87 degrees Celsius. I'm hoping the rack case will improve this with better airflow. The CPU it's cooling is an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X, which is a 12-core processor at 3.8 GHz that can boost up to 4.6 GHz. After this, I took the PC back inside and continued removing the components. My primary drive in the PC is a 2TB Samsung 970 EVO Plus NVMe, but I also have 3 of these 1TB Samsung 850 Pro SSDs that I historically used in one of my NASs when I was using them for virtual machines. However, now they are used for local storage of footage when making videos. After undoing most of the cable management, I'm able to remove the power supply. This is a Cooler Master V1200 Platinum. I got this when I upgraded to the RTX 3090 card. The existing power supply would not have been able to handle it. Eventually, with the system stripped down, I can remove the motherboard. An MSI B450M Mortar Titanium. I'm leaving the CPU cooler mounted as I want to compare the temperatures once it's in the rack case, and if I was to reapply a thermal compound, then I wouldn't be comparing apples to apples. This PCIe extender cable hanging off the side is from when I was playing around with using a second GPU in the system. But I've since moved that to another system, however I do have something else I'll be plugging in here, so I'm leaving it connected. Alright, so here's the rack case I'm going to be mounting everything into. It's a Silverstone SST RM400, which is 4 rack units in height. Remember those 2.5-inch SSDs I had earlier? Well, I'm going to mount them into this IcyDock Fat Cage MB1565SP-B. It supports 5 3.5-inch or 2.5-inch SATA hard drives. I have this unit from many years ago, but stopped using it when I moved over to using a NAS. So I may as well install it now so I can easily access these SSDs in the future. I decided here to use 3 different coloured SATA cables so future me knows where things go. I'm not going to connect up the remaining 2 ports as I have no need for them right now. It requires 3 SATA power connectors and the power supply comes with heaps of spare cables. So I'll just use 3 cables instead of trying to twist and turn one of these cables that has multiple connectors. With all that installed and the cables tucked neatly, I put the motherboard I/O shield backplate in place ready for the motherboard installation. With the motherboard standoffs installed in the case, installing the motherboard is a no-brainer. I'm going to skip over all the cabling management, but here's me installing the SSDs into their caddies. This is what makes accessing these in the future easy. The drive bay cage on the left side of the case needs to be removed as the RTX 3090 is too long, but once removed it fits in quite nicely with plenty of room. Lastly is the installation of the power supply. What's funny is that the RGB RAM will no longer be visible as the cables running to the GPU block it from sight, but I never bought the RAM because of its RGB. I didn't originally have 4 sticks of RAM. I just had 2 16GB DIMMs, however early on one of the sticks failed under warranty. So to get it replaced I needed to send both back, but it was working okay with one. So I bought another pair of identical DIMMs first, and when they arrived, I was able to send the others back on warranty. So when I eventually received them back, inadvertently I'd upgraded from 32GB to 64GB of RAM. And there's a lot of cables that need to be routed about the place, but there's enough room to fit them all in and they're not blocking any airflow. After triple checking all the cables, I go and place it on the shelf in the rack and start connecting up all the rear cables. Here's a pro tip. Print out the rear I/O panel picture from your motherboard manual and mark what cable goes where. And also put a label on each cable. It makes moments like these painless. I was very happy to turn the PC on and everything worked first time. There was nothing I forgot. After a couple of tests, I put the lid on the case and ran some stress tests to see if there were any temperature improvements. I'm happy to say that when running a Cinebench 2024 benchmark, the CPU temperature peaked at 75.4 degrees Celsius. That's 11.6 degrees down from the 87 degrees before the case swap. As for the GPU, it hasn't changed with the case swap. It's still peaking at 87.2 degrees Celsius. I wasn't expecting anything here. I would need to do something like water cooling to see a noticeable difference, and that's not something I'm interested in doing in this build. Perhaps I might do this in a future build. Now, that's not the end of this story. Remember that PCIe extender cable on the motherboard? Well, it's time to install a 10GB SFP plus NIC, which will connect to my Dell X4012 10GB SFP plus Ethernet switch and thus get faster connectivity to my NAS units. I've got this Intel X710 quad-port SFP plus network card from when I used to have an ESXi server. It's totally overkill as I only need one port, however, it's still going to do the job just fine. From a technical standpoint, the slot on the motherboard is a PCI Express 2.0 X16 slot that supports X4 mode. Digging through some Intel documentation, this card is PCI Express version 3 X8, which is 7.8 gigabits per second. The beauty of PCI Express is that it is backwards compatible. A newer card will be forced to operate at the speed of the older slot along with the amount of lanes available. So with the slot being limited to PCI Express version 2 X4 mode, the card will run at a maximum of 2 gigabits per second. I'm curious though, if it is a 4-port card, does that mean each port only uses 1.95 gigabits per second? And by only using one port, will I still get max speeds? I don't think I'll ever have a definitive answer on that, but regardless, as you will see, it's an improvement over what I had. Just a side note, this card does not have a proper expansion slot bracket, as it was bought from Dell, hence it's built to fit a Dell server and their mounting system. However, some cable ties soon fixes that and it's as sturdy as it needs to be. I have been using this Volan's 2.5 gigabit USB network adapter before the upgrade, and here's some copy tests to show you what sort of transfer rates I was getting. Copying from the NAS to this PC, it was about 270 megabytes per second, and then copying back up to the NAS was about 250 megabytes per second. With the 10 gigabit card, copying from the NAS to the PC, it averages about 650 to 730 megabytes per second. This is an impressive jump in performance. Copying up to the NAS, I am now getting from 320 to 360 megabytes per second. Obviously, this is slower because the data has to be written to the RAID array as opposed to reading from it. Regardless, I'm still getting an improvement of about 100 megabytes per second, which is much better than what I had. So, was it worth it? Well, the migration to a rack case certainly improved airflow, resulting in peak load temperatures dropping 11.6 degrees Celsius, a significant improvement for the CPU. The extra case space also allowed me to upgrade to the 10 gigabit networking, and this has been very worthwhile. While this is my gaming PC, it is also the PC I do all my video editing on, and since implementing 10 gigabit networking, the read speeds from the NAS is significantly faster than the local SSDs I was previously using. I've stopped using these and will probably relocate one of these to another device in the future. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed learning more about my computer setup behind the scenes. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll be sure to respond. Stay tuned for a video where I convert my streaming PC to a rack case. Until next time, bye!